Lorong Buangkok, the last village in the midst of the splendor of Singapore. Surrounded by modern urban areas, this small space is like a green oasis in the midst of urban life. A living space that seems to be left behind in time, presents a natural village atmosphere that's so authentic and very contrasting compared to its surroundings. And this is Lorong Buangkok, a small settlement called the last village in the midst of the splendor of Singapore. Singapore is a country with a relatively small size. Its area is only around 734.3 square kilometers, and this may not be much different when compared to the area of New York City, which reaches 781 square kilometers. Even so, Singapore is included in the category of developed countries and one of the richest countries based on GDP per capita. As a prosperous developed country, the touch of modernization is clearly visible in every corner of the city in Singapore. Rows of luxurious skyscrapers stand firmly decorating the face of Singapore. But in the midst of its splendor, there is a very simple settlement with a beautiful traditional village nuance, namely the Kampong Lorong Buangkok. A settlement called the last village in the midst of the splendor of Singapore's modern infrastructure. Lorong Buangkok is the only remaining village in Singapore. This village is located in the Buangkok area, Hougang, Singapore. Lorong Buangkok has been around since 1956, and this village was originally founded by a man named Teo Koon. There used to be around 220 villages like this spread throughout Singapore. But over time, their numbers continued to decrease and disappear. In the early 1980s, Singapore experienced urbanization and rapidly shifted from an agricultural economy to an industrial one. Skyscrapers and various high-rise houses were built. Small roads were replaced with multi-lane highways to connect the entire city. This had an impact on the countryside, which eventually began to be replaced. Because of that, hundreds of traditional villages were evicted, trees were cut down, and dirt roads were paved. Over time, the villages began to be replaced, and most residents eventually moved to subsidized apartments built by the government. Today, only Lorong Buangkok village remains. Above it now stands a mosque and about 25 wooden houses, roofed with zinc and surrounded by lush trees. Those who live here have different religious backgrounds, but half of them are descendants of Malay Muslims. When in the middle of the village, people might feel like they are not in Singapore. Unpaved rocky dirt roads with trees on the side are the main roads used every day. The design of the houses here looks so outdated, with plank walls and rusty zinc roofs that have been eaten away by age. However, those who live here are not poor people. Some families even have cars parked in the yard. Even though they live in traditional houses, their lives are no different from the average Singaporean in general. Some of them work as office workers in factories in the city centre. The quiet atmosphere, like a village in a remote part of the country, may be one of the reasons why residents here still feel at home in their homes. In addition, most public apartments in Singapore are small. The average size is only 90 square meters, or about 968 square feet, while the houses in this village are larger with large backyards. In the yard, the owner can garden by planting various vegetables and fruits, relax while enjoying the chirping of birds and the sound of insects hiding behind the leaves. As a country that is very short of space, many property developers hope to buy the village. In 2014, there was a proposal to evict the village and replace it with a highway, 2 schools, and a public park. But in the end, the intention was not realized. Many Singaporeans have voiced objections to the plan, Others have even pushed for the village to be included as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Considering that this is the only remaining village in the middle of Singapore, Lorong Buangkok is like a rare green oasis located in one of the most densely populated and most urban countries in the world. For that, this area really attracts the attention of many tourists who visit Singapore. Not infrequently, tourists take a tour around the village, which is so green, in the middle of the glittering city in Singapore. In short, this place shows a completely different face from the Singapore we know today. Lorong Buangkok, that still exists today, is like a window that can be used to see the image of Singapore decades ago, where hundreds of similar villages once dominated the living space in Singapore. But everything changed in an instant. Singapore's rapid progress has now left its past behind. From a simple area, Singapore has transformed into a rich country with luxurious infrastructure in every inch of its city.